In this lecture, we will look at key points about data collection in Google Analytics and how they convert that into reports. Each user interaction is tracked by the Google Analytics code on that page and is sent to Google Analytics as a hit. There are several types of hits. The most common ones are page view, event, and transaction. There are also other hits such as social hits and page timing hits. Page view tracks the page views. Event, non-page view actions such as button clicks. Transactions are related to the e-commerce reporting. Social hits track stuff like likes, share, tweets, etc. And page timing hits allow you to measure the page timings. Google Analytics uses the browser data, IP address data, server logs, and ad serving data to provide various reports such as geolocation, technology and mobile reports, demographic, source, medium, etc. Once this data is collected in GA, it's processed. Cookies are used to determine new versus returning user. If the cookie is present, a user is counted as returning. If there is no Google Analytics cookie present, then the user is counted as new. All these hits are categorized into sessions, and then this data collected via GA tracking code is joined with other data sources as required. Before the data is processed and converted into reports, you can set certain configuration rules to configure and transform this data. You can use data filters, goals, channel and content groupings, custom dimension and metrics, as well as data imports from your CRM solutions, etc. Data filters are applied at the view level. You can decide what data to include or exclude in your view, and also transform the data to exactly how you want to see in the reports. Goals allow you to configure the end actions that you want to track. Channel grouping allows you to group your marketing channels so that you can look at aggregate metrics. Similarly, for content grouping, you can aggregate certain content and then collect aggregated metrics for those. Custom dimension and metrics let you create your own dimensions and metrics. To create a custom dimension or metric, go to the admin panel. Custom dimension and metrics are set up at the property level. So pick the property where you want to create and then click on custom definitions. Click on custom dimensions to create a dimension and click on new custom dimension. This is where you can define your dimension. Custom dimensions require a JavaScript on the page to capture the values. This JavaScript passes the index number of the dimension and the dimension value. One in dimension 1 is the index number. There are 4 scope levels for dimensions. Hit. If you want the dimension to include every time a user visited a particular page, then you'll set it at a hit level. If you want the dimension to be organizing data for the duration of a session, then you'll pick session level. If you want to organize it at the user level, then user. And if you want to associate the data with a product, then you'll pick the product level scope. To create custom metrics, click on custom metrics under custom definitions, and on the page, click on new custom metric. This is where you create your custom metric. Just like custom dimension, custom metric also requires a JavaScript. In this JavaScript, you pass metric 1. 1 is the index number of that metric, and then pass metric value from your web page, just like custom dimension. You have 2 scopes here. Hit, the value is incremented with each hit. Product, the value is incremented by the cost you assign to the product. There are 3 formatting types available: integer, currency, and time. And then you also have options to provide maximum and minimum value to prevent any accidental large or small value increments. Keep in mind, custom dimension can be used as a secondary dimension in standard report and as a primary dimension in custom reports or as a segment. Data import lets you combine offline data to the GA data so that you can look at the aggregated view. Once the configuration settings are applied on the data, Google Analytics transforms the data into dimensions. Then it calculates the metrics for those dimensions and finally stores each dimension in its own aggregated table so that it can quickly find the data when needed. In your reports, you can only use metrics and dimensions that have the same scope. Google Analytics automatically pairs appropriate metrics and dimensions in the standard reports. Not every interaction by a user generates a new page view. This is where event tracking in Google Analytics comes in handy. Event tracking lets you measure specific actions users are taking on your site. Almost any user interaction on your site can be tracked as an event. Some examples of events that you can track are click on the navigation of your site, button clicks, white paper download, video play, pause, complete, etc. So how do you track events? In order to track any action as an event, you need to add a small JavaScript code to the element, to the action that you want to track. If you're using Google Tag Manager, then you do not need to add JavaScript to every action, as it can be easily done within the Google Tag Manager interface. This JavaScript sends the event type hit to Google Analytics for tracking these events. The call looks like following. GA stands for the Google Analytics call, and then it's followed by several parameters that you're passing in. The first two parameters, send and event, stay the same for every call. Here you're telling, I'm sending an event type hit to Google Analytics. Then you have 4 more parameters that you can pass to this call: event category, event action, event label, and event value. Event category and event action are the required parameters. So those are the only 2 that you need. The other 2 are optional. You can pass in any string value to event category, event action, and event label, while the event value can only take in a number. As I mentioned before, in these parameters, you can pass in any values that you desire. However, in your measurement plan, you should clearly outline what events you are going to track on the site and what values you will pass for each of these parameters. Event category value allows you to categorize all these events into buckets. Action is an action that user takes within that category. Event labels can help you identify specific element that user took action on. An event value is a numeric value that you want to assign to that event. For example, if you're trying to track a video, in that case, your event category can be video, event action can be play when the user plays it, pause when the user pauses it, complete when the video completes. So there could be 3 different actions depending on the state that user is in. And then the label could be the name of that video that's playing. And for the value, you can pass in number of minutes of the video that was watched.